Good evening, everybody, and welcome to Story Hour. I'm your host, Daniel Marcus. My esteemed co-host is Laura Blackwell. We're getting started a little bit late this evening. I apologize for that, but in over a year and a half, this is the first time that we have ever not started right on the button. So, anyway,
jealous pixies is what I say.
Yeah, it was
Jealous
pixies.
pixies in the ether, trying to stop us from getting the stories out.
But here we are, and yet another week of Story Hour. I started Story Hour in the opening weeks of the pandemic, really with the intention of just some writer friends and I getting together and reading our stuff to each other and having some kind of sense of community in what was feeling like a kind of strange and cold world. And it's still that, but it's become a lot more than that. It's really grown. We have had probably well over 125 authors come read in the last year and a half. Very early on, my co-host Laura Blackwell joined me, and it's been really great building out this project with her. So the deal is this. This is how it works. Basically, we follow a time-honored tradition of it's old as human history, people sitting around the fire telling lies to each other. So that's what we do here every week. 2 authors, about 30 minutes each. No Q&A, and a minimum of self-promotion, although we are writers after all, and we do a little bit of that, and that's fine. In addition to the work, we also give our visiting authors an opportunity to nominate a worthy cause for us to shill for them. So if you're in a position to help financially with these causes, great. If not, just be aware and tell your friends about them. So tonight we have 2 great authors. I'm really excited for this program. We have Premee Mohamed and Gwendolyn Kiste. Tonight, who's reading for what? Tonight, Premee is reading for Zoe's Animal Rescue. And this is a volunteer-run shelterless rescue in Edmonton, Alberta. Plenty of opportunities to adopt a new family member, foster a dog or cat, volunteer, or donate to the cause. Gwendolyn is reading tonight for the National Aviary. And here you can meet fascinating forest-dwelling animals, get up close to mysterious owls, sociable parrots, and powerful birds of prey. And enhanced safety protocols are in place. Capacity is limited, so reserve your tickets, but this sounds like a really great place and a lot of fun to attend, and certainly a worthy cause to support in any capacity. But let's get started. We haven't, since we were a little bit rushed getting started tonight, we haven't figured out who's going to lead off. So I'm going to completely arbitrarily say that Gwendolyn Kiste is going to lead off. I just kind of mentally flipped a coin.
That sounds good. That sounds good.
So Gwendolyn Kiste is the Bram Stoker award-winning author of The Rust Maidens, Bone Set and Feathers, and Her Smile Will Untether the Universe, Pretty Mary's All in a Row, and The Invention of Ghosts. Wonderful titles. Her short fiction and nonfiction have appeared in Nightmare Magazine, Best American Science Fiction and Fantasy, Festerian, Tor's Nightfire, Black Static, The Dark, Daily Science Fiction, Inner Zone, and Lamplight, among others. Originally from Ohio, Gwendolyn now resides on an abandoned horse farm, wow, outside of Pittsburgh, with her husband, 2 cats, and not nearly enough ghosts. And you can find her online at gwendolynKiste.com. That's KISTE.com. Gwendolyn, welcome, and take it away. The floor is yours.
All right. Sounds great. Thank you so much for having me. First of all, I love this program. This is awesome. So I'm really, really excited to be here. So thank you. All right, I'm going to be reading my story, The Woman Out of the Attic. Quick content warning, there is some domestic violence, a brief mention of suicide. So if that is not your thing, just mute me and come back when Premee reads, okay? So I'm gonna get started. This was first published in a Flame Tree anthology as well as Pseudopod. Here's what you know for sure. You won't survive the film. There's no chance a woman like you will live to see the end credits. Heck, you might not even make it through the opening credits. But even if you're dead before the very first frame, that doesn't mean you're gone. There are other ways of being in the picture. You could, for instance, linger like a ghost, there and not there, a whisper in the heroine's ear, a dull ache in the brooding hero's heart. But it's important that you remember, this isn't your story. None of this, not the man or the glory or the happy ending, belongs to you. Please don't forget, or the film will have to remind you. Fade in. You blink into existence and wonder where you are, who you are. This could be many different places and you could be many different people. For instance, if the audience is in the mood for propriety and corsets, this could be England in the 19th century and you're the wife tucked away in an attic, forgotten like a yellowed family photo album or a box of moth-eaten clothes. Or this could be mid-century after the war with you as a bright-eyed wanton socialite. Or maybe it's modern day and you're a lonely career girl who isn't eager to be ignored. After all, there's never a lack of women who misbehave in a world desperate to correct them for it. You blink again and regain your bearings. This time, your role is simple. This time, you're already dead. Your husband isn't your husband anymore, and you're haunting his mansion where he's got a new woman at his side, a dewy, ruddy-cheeked bride. She might have a name. She probably won't, or if she does, he'll never use it. Instead, he calls her what she means to him, beloved, wife, mine. For what it's worth, she knows your name. As she wanders the long corridors alone, your name brands itself on her tongue, though she never speaks it aloud. That, of course, won't stop her from speaking about you. I hear she was very beautiful, his bride whispers, and the staff members on the estate nod and hurry about their business. This is what you've come to expect. Your beauty is the one thing everyone remembers about you. It was all you had to offer. You were never a nice girl. You laughed too loudly. You stayed out until dawn. You enjoyed sex, and sometimes not with your husband. If his new bride wants to do better than you, she should be a good little wife and stop with the questions now. But perhaps she isn't as docile as they think. The bride keeps asking, and everyone keeps pretending they don't know what she's talking about, especially her new husband. Do you grow roses on the grounds? She asks him at dinner, and he bristles on instinct. Absolutely not, he says with a snuff, and doesn't elaborate, doesn't tell her how he hacked down your dozen rose bushes the day after your funeral, his palms blistered and his face burnt and twisted in the sun. At the other end of the long table, his bride blushes and regards her plate of sirloin and wilted asparagus. That's strange, she says. I swear I smell them everywhere I go here. At this, he slams down his wine glass, the jagged shards shattering across the scarlet tablecloth. He storms off without another word, and with dinner abruptly over, she sneaks off to the study, where she cries alone at a blackened hearth. You ripple through the walls after her. You aren't a very good ghost. A ghost would haunt this young girl, terrify her in this moment of grief. All you want to do is comfort her, though you don't know how. As you watch her in the lamplight glow, she reminds you of someone, the gap between her teeth, the way her hair falls over her eyes. You barely remember who you are, but somehow you remember her. Films can play tricks on you. They can cast the same person in two roles or reincarnate someone just for kicks, just to drive the knife in deeper. You do your best to avoid her, to avoid remembering, but she senses you in the house. She's the only person who seems to know you're still there. When he retires to bed in his separate room each night, she whispers to the high-up cornices on the ceiling. What do you want? She asks, her voice sweet as candy floss, but trembling too. I'll give you anything, anything except him. You try to tell her you don't want him and that she shouldn't want him either, but you're dead and nobody listens to the dead. As she sleeps, you smooth her hair and you hum her a lullaby to help her through a nightmare. In the darkness, she calls out his name, not yours, as though he's the one here to comfort her. Then she returns to dreaming. You pretend you can still dream too. On a lonely winter morning, you stumble upon her in the wardrobe that was once yours. It's filled with her satin gowns purchased in expensive boutiques in the Champs-Élysées. You know because these are the same places he took you on your honeymoon. She runs her fingers along the tailored seams. I don't belong here, she says. At first you think she's talking to herself, until you realize she's speaking to you. His bride is having a conversation with a ghost. You part your lips to respond. but no sound comes out. Flashback. In every version of the film, one thing is constant. You always ask yourself the same question. How did I die this time? Maybe it was an accident. That's if you're lucky. More than likely, your end was something much more sinister. A coarse hand around your neck, a dollop of rat poison in your afternoon high tea, so long as you got what was coming to you. It's a lesson every girl learns early. Strange women, disobedient women, never claw their way to a happy ending. They put their heads in ovens or stones in their pockets. They swallow lie. They wrap a rope around their throats instead of waiting for a hand to come along and do the job for them. Or they take the hard way out like you did. They marry a man who everyone loves and wait until the day he no longer loves them. The film will be halfway over before he makes his confession to his bride. The midpoint is the perfect time for a Byronic man to spew his secrets to a woman who shouldn't have to listen. But you always listen, because until he speaks it aloud, you aren't completely certain how you died. Film after film, you always have your suspicions, but until he names it, you can't be sure. She was so beautiful, he says, reminding the audience again of your worth. His gaze is set on some faraway point, and his bride huddles next to him in the bedroom or the boathouse or the bathtub where you died. But after we married, he says, she changed. You could play a game of bingo with the words that inevitably follow. Spoiled, lying, lascivious. She had unchaste desires, he whispers, and says no more about it because to him, this is your greatest sin, the one too terrible to mention aloud. A woman who doesn't swoon at her handsome husband, who swoons at someone else instead. Another woman's husband, perhaps, or another woman. I didn't mean to hurt her, he says, and spends more time describing what he did to you than who you were. His brown knit, he insists you coerced him into hurting you, how it was all your fault. You wonder if he's ever stopped to think how a woman should never be able to goad her husband into murdering her. I'm sorry, he says, his words in heart hollow, and his bride watches him, tears glistening in her earnest eyes. She must be crying for him, but you pretend she's weeping for you, for how he owns your narrative and shapes it like clay in his hands. At this point, you wish you could rewind the film and try again. You would take this new information about your death, and you would try to live. It wouldn't matter, though. The film would always turn out the same way. That's because you're the same. You won't get a happy ending. The film has taught you that much. Jump cut. Now his bride knows about you. He thinks, his chest puffing out like a peacock, that she'll feel for him, that she'll understand him and what he's done, that he has her in the palm of his hand forever. But as the winter days wear into spring, she isn't so worried about him anymore. It's you she can't stop thinking about. Each afternoon while he's out, she gazes at your faded portrait strung above the staircase. A flicker of memory passes across her face. You want to call to her, to tell her you remember too, but the moment is quickly gone. Still, the two of you have plenty of time to get to know each other. Her husband's always away on some obscure errand. What does he do when he's gone, she asks you. And though you could tell her all about his dubious business dealings, she doesn't really want to talk about him. She wants to talk to you. Sitting cross-legged on the lawn, she leans back next to the air you occupy and smiles. She tells you her secrets. She tells you her name. You spend every day together listening to the sea if it's nearby in this version, or listening to the wind if you're landlocked. Or maybe just listening to each other, her body nestled in the dirt where your rose bushes used to grow. What are you doing out there in the muck? Her husband asks when he returns home early, but she only shrugs. He's a fool, she whispers to you in the dark that night and giggles. You're desperate to giggle back, to share something as intimate as joy with her, but you lost your voice when he stole it from you. She turns over in bed to sleep, and your invisible hand lingers over her. I love you, you want to say, but the white noise of your existence rattles in the empty walls, fading like an echo into the night. Deleted scene. There are no moments in the film from your point of view. This isn't your story, remember. But if you could get only one scene, this is what you'd choose, the day you met her. It might have happened at a boarding school, or Beverly Hills High School, or in the forest behind the church where you skipped out early on Sunday school. It doesn't matter the era or the place. She was always there, and you always recognized her. It was behind a line of rose bushes where she sneaked off to smoke so the headmistress or pastor wouldn't see her. You stumbled upon her there, and she grinned at you, a tiny impish gap between her front teeth. Hello, she said, and you blushed and smiled back at her. After that, you met there regularly. Every day, if you could, you saw her, and every moment you thought of her, the two of you in the grass giggling, her hair falling over her eyes. We don't have to stay here, she said, and you wished that were true. You wished you could run or fly or vanish together, but you couldn't, especially once your parents found out about her. They kept you apart, locking you in your room, letting you out only for school, and sometimes not even then. They told you what you wanted was wrong, and because you were tired and afraid and worn down, you believed them. You spent every moment for the rest of your very short life hating yourself for it, but you believed them. So when a man with a fortune and a mansion and no love in his heart proposed to you, you had no reason to decline, no reason except her. You asked her to meet you in front of the rose bushes at midnight. She brought her satchel and has twisted a blade in your guts. She thought the two of you were running away together. It was what you both wanted, but what you couldn't have, not in this version anyhow. You shook your head, not looking at her. I'm sorry. You told her goodbye, and then you left to tell him yes. As you walked away, you didn't turn back. Afterwards, no one ever mentioned what happened to her, and you never asked, but it was easy to guess. A razor, a rope, an accident. You already knew how it ended for women like you. You tried not to think of any of that. Instead, you put on white lace and a string of vintage pearls tighter than a noose, and you took the longest walk of your life down that aisle. At the altar, he lifted your veil and you kissed his lips, but all you could taste were roses. Dissolve. Back to the house you haunt. Back to being dead. It's a humid afternoon, spring rain pattering against the stained glass windows, and his bride wanders down a hallway and hums a song under her breath. From inside his study, where he hunches over a mountain of useless papers, he hears her, and with his eyes dark, he charges into the hallway and takes hold of her arm. Where did you learn that song, he demands, tightening his grasp until she cries out. She yanks herself free. I don't remember. That's because she never learned it, not on purpose. It's the lullaby you sing to her in her sleep. That means she can hear you, even if she doesn't realize it. This strikes an ember of hope in your heart. Just because you're a ghost doesn't mean you have to give up. Besides, what you want is so simple, to exist, to not be erased the way the film intends. You aren't asking that much, but in a world like this, you're asking for everything. You're demanding the basic plot be rearranged in your favor, but that's what you want, and that's what you have to fight for. Close up. There's a box of matches on the mantle. Later, they'll say it was faulty wiring or a drip candle that didn't go out the way it should have. They won't know it's your hand that reaches through the in-between and strikes the flame into existence. These familial estates always burn to the ground, don't they? Secrets must make for the best kindling. You wait until she's outside on a walk around the grounds and he's in his study, but it does no good. He escapes the smoky hallways anyhow, and they reunite in front of the crumbling house. As you stare out the window through the fire, he loops his arm around her as if to remind you, she's mine, forever and always. She can't be yours. Love can never be yours. She sobs silently into his chest, not looking at you, not able to do anything except cry out. You want to cry out too. The flames draw closer and melt what little remains of you. As the world cascades to black, you watch your former husband and you burn and you hate him with every cinder left sparking inside you until there's nothing left of you at all. Fade out. Try again. Fade in. The film starts over. The era might be different this time, and the mansion might be in the Art Deco style rather than the Queen Anne, but the fundamental thing remains. You're dead from the get-go. It's pointless to think you could change that, so you creep up into the ceiling and leave her to celebrate what ought to be her wedded bliss. But she doesn't want to be alone with him anymore. She wants to be with you. She remembers the before, gauzy as a dream, bits and pieces out of focus, just enough to make her want to know more. Where are you? She whispers to the walls, her fingers gliding along the plaster as though she's searching for a heartbeat. Your heartbeat. You wish you could find it. Her husband leaves the house less often now, especially once he notices her spending more time looking for you than at the dinner table or in the four-poster bed with him. You have your duty, he tells her, and this chills you to the bones you no longer have. The fire starts earlier in the film this round, and you aren't the one to light the match. You couldn't light it if you tried. Your spectral hands are numb suddenly, and you don't know why. As the mansion burns to the ground at midnight, she watches helplessly from the front lawn, tears streaking her rouged cheeks. In the final frame, you stare out from the window and wish she could see you, but her eyes stare blindly through you, and because she can do nothing else, she shudders and turns away. Fade out, back into darkness. Why can't you just find a way to survive? Fade in. In the garden where your roses used to grow, you meet her again, as if for the first time. You're still a ghost and she's still a newlywed, but it feels different somehow. Like maybe this time she's yours and you're hers. I can almost remember it all, she says to you. Both of us here before. Do you remember too? If only you could smile and tell her that all ghosts can do is remember. She misses his birthday supper that night, and his anger flares at her the way it used to flare at you. I won't tolerate this behavior, he says, and you both know what he means. He sees how she converses openly with you, waiting and listening day and night for you, the phantom hanging over the film. He watches her through narrowed eyes, his fists clenched, and all you want to do is protect her. You want to do something, but you're so strangely tired now, too tired even to smooth the cowlick from her hair after the gaslight goes out. It seems the more she remembers about you, the weaker you become. Another trick of the film to ensure it gets its way. In the last reel, he grins and lights the match when no one's looking. But even as the wallpaper peels away like flesh, she doesn't run with him. She stays in the house, searching for you, until all the servants come for her, coughing and clawing and pulling her to safety. She screams as they drag her out the front door. "Where are you?" she calls out, and you only wish you knew. Fade out. You're fading too. Even the dead have a shelf life, and someone might say you've done pretty well for yourself. 100 run-throughs of this film at least. And anyhow, you're a ghost, and ghosts don't get happy endings, the same as women like you. Stop expecting anything else. But this film keeps playing, keeps looping. Try again. Try one last time. Fade in. You can barely speak, barely move this time. There are no respites in the garden, no giggles in the bedroom. You're thinner than mist and less substantial. "Please," she whispers, "don't leave me." You wish you could stay, but the final scene comes so early this time, his hand that lights the match, a blaze you can't escape. They haul her to safety, and in front of the burning estate, he pulls her into him with a rough hand. She recoils and turns back to the house, back to you. The flames move into you and through you, and the end credits are drawing nearer. This is almost over, probably for the last time. Weeping, she gazes up at your window. You expect nothing to happen, just like nothing's happened before, but an electric look passes between you, and you're sure of it. She sees you, and she remembers everything. The meeting among the roses, the engagement that shouldn't have been, all the incarnations of the film that came before. You think she hates you for abandoning her, to condemning the two of you to this fate. You're wrong. She stares at the smoldering mansion, and with her eyes wild and unafraid, she calls out to you. This is the first time she said your name, and at once something in you shifts. The weight of the past and 1,000 lives lost whirlpool within you, and you're no longer without form. As the heat closes in on you, you don't dissolve. You become the fire. Your body is whole again, but different, more powerful, and surging through the halls you haunted, devouring everything in your path. She sees you there in the flames, peering out all the windows, turning the beautiful gowns he bought her on their Parisian honeymoon to ash. She should be afraid. She should run with the rest, but she doesn't. She walks to you instead. Her husband, the man the two of you have shared glowers on the lawn, his heart cold as the hand he placed around your neck. This isn't how his story is supposed to end. Jaws said he starts back toward the house, ready to admonish her, to strike her, to drag her back to him by her hair. But the flames rise, you rise, and knock him backward. Not her, though. She keeps coming. He's frozen there in the grass, choking on the smoke, watching her go. He would scream her name if he remembered it, but she's merely his wife, his missus, the second incarnation of you. You aren't the same as him. You know her name, and over the roar of the fire, you speak it to her. You repeat that name until she smiles, and you're sure she hears you. She's on the front stairs now, on the precipice of you. Without hesitating, she swings open the door to what's left of the mansion, and the two of you are truly alone for the first time. "Hello," you say, as she crosses the threshold and her hand reaches out for you. The heat of your new body should melt the flesh from her bones, but the flames don't sear her skin. Instead, she moves into you, and all at once, she becomes the fire too. Together, you keep burning, and you don't stop, not when her husband and the staff come with their buckets of well water, or when they bring in a whole village with fire hoses and hand-powered pumps. There are more extras here than this film could ever afford. They're too late. The opulent floors of the house collapse beneath you, and even once the mansion's fallen, you keep going, burning on with no kindling except yourself. All the while, her husband stands there, watching the film he thought belonged to him dissolve to nothing at his feet. The last turret of his estate crumbles, and he screams out again, your name this time, but it's for nothing. The extras have retreated in defeat, and no one's left to hear him now. The last of the Technicolor film stock unspools, but you don't fade to black this time. Wrapped up as one, you and his bride no more laugh together, and as your flames rise to the sky, the scent of roses fills the air. Thank you.
Wow, that was awesome. So many really wonderful, astute observations in that piece. Really, really lovely work. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
I'm sure you haven't been able to follow the chat pod, but you should take a look. There's a lot of interesting little comments. So anyway, it's customary for us just to kind of pause, take a breath, chill for 5 seconds between readers. So we're going to do that. just kind of regroup, get resettled, and get ourselves ready for the next author. All right. Onward. We're really happy to have Premee Mohamed back here. She's a repeat offender. This is her third time at Story Hour, I believe. She was here, I think, in last July and last November, and she's here again. So we're delighted to have her. She's an Indo-Caribbean scientist and speculative fiction author based in Edmonton, Alberta. She is the author of the novels Beneath the Rising, Crawford Award, Aurora Award, British Fantasy Award, and Locus Award finalist, and A Broken Darkness, and novellas These Lifeless Things, and what can we offer you tonight, and The Annual Migration of Clouds. Her next novel, The Void Ascendant, is the final book in the Beneath the Rising trilogy and is due out in March 2022. Her short fiction has appeared in many venues, and she can be found on Twitter at Premeesaurus and on her website at www.premeemohamed.com. Premee, lovely to have you here again. The floor is yours.
Thank you so much for inviting me again. I am going to try to move around not too much because I'm using the little dangly guy tonight instead of the nice microphone because it has been acting up. This story is called Episode 4, The Deflection of Probability, and it was first published on Escape Pod in July 2021 and was read by a wonderful British narrator. So I am not even going to try to imitate a British accent. You're just gonna get Canadian. I guess content warnings, the one they put on it was science fiction style death and peril. So let us begin with episode 4, The Deflection of Probability. The tent billowed in the hot, humid wind, and Harriet thought if the canvas made that gun crack noise near her head one more time, she'd go mad. Simply abandon her project and flee screaming into the meadow. She took a deep breath, ignoring the hovering cameras that hummed in her peripheral vision. They'd make something of that in final production, she thought gloomily. That sigh. The plucky lass from Berwick-upon-Tweed, a clear shoo-in during the first 3 episodes, has done very poorly indeed today and seems to be feeling the pressure. Well, and it would have to be plucky, wouldn't it? Harriet was sure the judges had an approved list of adjectives in their scripts. Some contestants were brilliant, some were confident, some... Another gust of hot air roared in like the furious breath of a dragon. Her Palladium microtorus setup spun on its little mirrored platform, reflecting glimpses of her startled gaze, her hair frizzed in the humidity. A skiff of pollen had dirtied the molecule-thick coating. Keeping her face still, she got out the nanofiber brush and cleaned the surface again. It had all begun so well. Or at least it probably looked that way to viewers. For episodes being aired already, Harriet didn't know. But 2 weeks ago, her synthetic prions had gone about the slide, like proper gangsters, knocking the other proteins aside and neatly recruiting only the ones they were meant to. Last week, only 4 contestants had managed to produce the correct crystal matrix in the final experiment, and hers had been the tallest of all, rising high and green as envy above their stations, nearly touching the ceiling. The judges and hosts had complimented her, even clapped, except Abaya, the sour old cow. She never smiled. Famous for it, of course, glowering under that sharp gray bob like something nasty under a rock, but the theatrical necessity of the persona didn't soothe the sting. Every time Harriet looked at her, she had a flashback to the first few months in grad school. Not that anyone had said anything out loud. Oh no. Her supervisor hadn't said, "We don't want you here." Her family hadn't said, "I shouldn't bother if I were you. What's wrong with working at the bank like Mom?" Her school friends hadn't said, "Aren't we getting ideas a little above our station, darling?" but they'd all been thinking it, plain as a pikestaff, just as when she had hesitantly suggested trying out for the show. Not one word of support, not through the video she'd had to send, the phone calls, auditions, train trips, the pitying looks from the makeup crew. She briskly dashed a tear away with the back of her wrist. Go on, get on with it, you silly thing. Don't cry on your Taurus. And looked up as a group of shadows fell across her device. Isn't this nice? Garrett, her favorite judge, smiled encouragingly. Very unique. We do like to see people putting their own spin on things. Can you tell us a little about what you've done here? His eyes twinkled, as if he expected to be told some wonderful secret. Deconstructed, is it? Abiatha said before Harriet could open her mouth. That's certainly one angle we haven't seen before. Why did you choose that? No, it's... Harriet swallowed. It had seemed like a good idea, though a minute ago she'd sneaked a look at the other benches and realized that everyone was doing a variation on a Hoffman-Liu apparatus except for her. And of course, the judges had spotted it and couldn't keep quiet. Well, at home, the low elasticity quantum tunneling in the magnetic field would, well, it won't heat up the tent anyway, Garrett said. Goodness, isn't it a muggy one today? Machine doubled, tripled in her tears. That's me, always thinking of my fellow experimentalists. Abiatha sneered, but they moved on, thank goodness. The cameras lingered over their shoulders, little blinks of light as the lenses focused at her. She couldn't let her guard down just yet. They'd make good drama of that, Harriet thought. First, that she was doing something unusual, and second, that she, not inaccurately, looked like she was having a panic attack. That would be the narrative constructed for this season. Plump, awkward Harriet, whose hands shook when she worked, who visibly flinched when the judges came by, not an underdog, not someone you'd cheer for. Stop it, you self-pitying thing. Get on with it. No one's looking over your shoulder, even if you are doing something ridiculous. And it's just one photon. You're just teleporting one photon. It's not like they asked for a grapefruit or something. Right. Sort out the platform. Next, fix it in place with a laser, move it over the accelerator path, calibrate the target. She peeled off the sticker on the laser's case stating, untested, do not use outside of high security settings, and dropped it into the bin. Next, and quickly, before she could change her mind, get the Taurus up to the calculated rotation, field on, shielding placed, laser activated, probability is collapsing. This was always the worst part. She backed away to the extent of her reach and gingerly, with a pen, pressed the initiate program button. Bits of debris, plastic, wire, tiny shreds of platinum and silver and palladium, scraps of snipped carbon fiber, drifted sluggishly across the white tiles of her workbench. Harriet refused to allow herself a moment of relief. So what if it had gone right for now? She'd already mucked up the first of today's experiments. The easiest one, she reminded herself angrily, the one everybody was supposed to ace, that bucked you up for the rest of the day like a stiff drink before a speech. Its remnants had melted, then spectacularly disappeared into a small but very deep hole next to the judging platform. During a break, she and the young man who shared the other end of her bench had dared each other to look. Sickeningly endless, no sign of a bottom. At least, she reflected, she'd stopped him before he dropped a coin down it. No, thank you. But thanks to that humiliation, she risked being eliminated today, and her take on the challenge was just raising too many eyebrows. To get her light to go green, to get the photon to the correct spot, required the manipulation of things that didn't like being manipulated. Short, she had to make the probability of its presence 0% at her bench and 100% at the platform. In theory, her apparatus worked by setting up a known level of unpredictability, constraining after some pushing and shoving the photon's path into one of predicted unpredictability and eliminating all its other paths. A bit iffy, now that she thought about it. A bit. Her torus ramped up, producing a small, eerie noise. The lights in the tent flickered. Low, nervous laughter rose behind her. Is that mine? Somebody said. A camera wandered over at the voice like a puppy ignored at a party. Harriet turned, leaning against the cool ceramic. Despite the heat, she desperately wanted a cup of tea just to steady herself. Another contestant whose name she couldn't remember in the back of the tent fetched a bottle of water from the ancient pastel blue fridge, then noticed Harriet's longing stare and gestured at her. Want one? Harriet nodded and mouthed, "Ah." The other woman smiled and gave the frosty Bam foam bottle a light underhand toss. They both flinched as it disappeared into the micro supermassive wormhole that lunged out of nowhere to intercept it. The owner of the wormhole gave them a look. Swiveling to make sure they both saw it, you weren't really supposed to let anything cross the waveform space above someone's bench. Not unsportsmanlike exactly, but poor etiquette. "Sorry," the woman called. Harriet walked back and got a bottle herself. "God, we must look a mess," she said. "Have you even seen any of the makeup lads today?" The other woman sighed, ran a wrist past the damp edge of her hijab. "Nobody showed up. They'll get it in post," Garrett said. "I love Garrett. Isn't that just something he'd say?" "I only love Garrett. Garrett is the only person I love now. My husband will get over it." They chuckled, gazing at the room of silent, bustling contestants, each in their show-approved lab coat of robin's egg blue, mint green, salmon pink, dove gray, meant to associate names with faces someone had explained to them before they started filming. Lord, had that been a month ago? It felt like forever. "Oh, hark at her," Harriet muttered, tipping her chin at the crowd favorite, whose project gleamed like the futuristic skyscrapers of old movies. A symphony of gleaming metal, beautifully tooled edges, invisible joints. Overdoing it a bit, do we think? It's just one photon, Zara. This time their laughter was pained. Harriet hoped no cameras were listening in. Zara wasn't sweaty, of course. In her lavender coat, she looked splendid and fresh as the larkspur fluttering outside. Harriet thought her list of judge-approved adjectives would include things like flawless and effortless. To Harriet's further annoyance and despair, Zara was also 20 and tall and naturally blonde and friendly. And back home, she baked nutritious, high-protein snacks for the care home down the street and had made the top 3 of every challenge. And Harriet wanted to like her. Really, she did. It was just that she worried that the effort would kill her or cause her to melt a hole into the Earth's crust, like certain unnamed abominations. Well, Zara was good for ratings. Anyway, Harriet sighed, walked back to her station, giving a bottle of water to Zara, and one to her benchmate, and one to the shaky, red-faced boy at the station behind her. A moment later, with a bone-rattling metallic clang, the boy vanished, leaving the bottle rocking forlornly on the white tiles. In the silence, her ears aching as if she'd been punched, Harriet realized that no one else was moving. She hurried to shut off the boy's device, and the ominous purple orb that had sucked him in disappeared in its turn. As if to prove a point, the power button fell off and rattled across the floor. Harriet swallowed, feeling faint. In earlier seasons, there had been a fair amount of screaming and panicking when something like this happened, but now it was so expected that people barely seemed to notice. It was un-British to scream and panic anyway, the thinking went. Undignified. They didn't so much as blur out the blood, not even in that episode last year when that irradiated Cayman had gotten loose and eaten 3 contestants. They simply edited it out. Americans, Harriet thought, would leave it in, maybe with a content warning. Anyway, all you got now was a snippy comment. What? A shoddy build, Abiatha announced. Well, crack on, survivors. That's one less competitor. Yeah, there it was, bang on time. And then you went on with the show. Stiff upper lip and all that. Actually, it was the third such incident. So when you counted the 3 whose challenges had slurped them into an irretrievable place, and the 3 sent home as part of the show, the field had gotten worryingly thin. Harriet did the math on her new odds and hated herself for it at once. Why do I even bother, she thought, unable to stop herself. I'll never win, let alone get to the end of it. That could be me next time. I should just back out. Leave it to Zara. She's the one they want anyway. Back at her bench, she began to dismantle her own apparatus, then paused, trying to steady herself. No, you really did have to have something, didn't you? Sabotage was one thing, but taking it apart entirely, surely not. Points might be awarded for creativity, or, well, out of pity, to be honest. Or maybe they would take it easy on everyone because of the recent shock. Harriet put her head down and fine-tuned her machine, annoyed that time seemed to be slowing down now instead of rushing. The clock on the far side of the tent, which she loved and feared, ticked down to final judging. Repurposed from a church, perhaps. Its great ancient face of gilt and iron really did look like a face, a harsh but interested observer. And it was very precise. 10 minutes left. Harriet's shoulders slumped. A camera floated over and she resisted a powerful urge to swat at it. Time's almost up, contestants, shouted Garrett. But his next words were drowned out in a rush of icy wind so strong it knocked people flat. Harriet grabbed the edge of her workstation, cutting her palm on a chipped tile. Nobody screamed, and for a split second, buried in the fear, she felt a jolt of pride. We're scientists, she thought. We got all our screaming over with in grad school. Well, nothing to worry about. They'd had their fair share of disasters already. What could be so bad about? At last, one voice rose, then others. The judges, hosts, even a pitiful wail from the cameras as their housings creaked under the strain. When it became a chorus, Harriet finally turned. For several moments, it wasn't even clear what she was looking at. At last, she realized that Zara's machine had exploded, but somehow not entirely, the pieces clinging to each other as if with static electricity. As Zara hammered frantically at her control panel, the tear above it expanded by the second, emitting a freezing tornado that chilled Harriet instantly. The little burst of adrenaline she'd felt earlier was gone, swamped under something too big for mere chemicals, a void, burgeoning, chewing away the roof of the tent, its carbon fiber central pole, the blue sky outside, the hanging willows, the clouds, the atmosphere, the stars that twinkled in the distance. Beyond it lay not the ordinary calm darkness of space, but a sharpness that ate the light and refracted everything into facets, broken and bent along impossible angles. What had happened? But even as Harriet thought it, she knew the answer. Always a risk with an incorrectly calibrated Hoffman-Liu. The breaking of dimensions, the introduction of forces meant to stay far from here. Zara finally lost her nerve, looking up at the tear, and began to shriek. A long, monotonous sound, like a tea kettle. The clock swayed so high from its twin struts it seemed about to flip like a coin, and Harriet found herself staring at it, dreamily, as if she weren't about to die. 50-50 chance on a coin? Heads, tails? Easy math? Can I shut it down? I'm the only one whose machine won't add to it. Oh, no, the odds on that weren't good. Far less than 50%. The Taurus wasn't reaching speed anyway. Everything was still too predictable. The end of the world, about 100%. The clock, wait a minute. The workings were just visible through a window in the front shaped like a crescent moon. Clockwork, gears. Gears. Quantum particles could jump energy levels, straight-laced little sods though they were, but if you could force them between levels, if you had enough multiplication of force, they would try to return to their place. And the simplest of machines, no wonder she hadn't thought of it. Maybe, just maybe, she could fix this. A tired voice sang out in her head, fuzzy from memory. Oh, Harriet, don't bother, you'll only make it worse. Wait till your dad gets home. Couldn't let her try, even. But all the same that day, the screwdriver, the shower of rest, the quiet triumph. Don't bother, she muttered. We'll see about that. Mind made up, she lunged for her printer, punching in shapes even as her feet began to lift off the floor. Clinging to the bench with one hand and working the printer with the other, she quickly did the calculations in her head. Yes, it might work. The whole realm, stranger the smaller you got, but actual rotation still in the realm of Newtonian physics. Passing its power down, doing nothing but passing, giving it to where things were tiny and weird, and all the rules were still not known. She was nearly horizontal now, white-knuckling the tile with one hand and catching the little metal gears as they dropped from the nozzles before they could fall upwards. Time seemed to slow, or maybe it was slowing now, who knew? A cable snapped loose from Zara's broken device and soared lazily past Harriet's face, leaving a deep red cut. All the elemental particles of this universe, she calculated, were fleeing inexorably into the other. But it could be stopped. Maybe. Maybe. Harriet thought, here is where the small and the great touch. Here is where we make it work. The gears were still so hot they burned her hand, but she clicked the teeth together and pushed them into place in the side of her own apparatus. The mirrored torus shifted, groaned, and changed, spitting out colors as it moved through the spectrum, till finally it vanished from sight. A moment later, the platform disappeared too, though a shimmering string of liquid began to drool from where it had been, sneaked up into the void like a silver wire. I can do this. I can do this. Forget the faces, those who mocked me, who talked down to me, who said to forget my dreams, forget them. Don't ask what Abiatha would say. It's not the spin of the thing I made, but the spin of the things they're making. Bless them. Supposing you did this in the olden days, burn you as a witch they would. Well, if no one else is doing any witchery today, she pressed the button. The statistical impossibility sealed itself with a bang. Bits of canvas, metal, and plastic suddenly remembered what gravity was, pattering down onto everyone's heads. Light crept back. Ordinary sunlight from their ordinary star, hot and plain, shining across the ruined tents, the broken machinery, survivors huddling behind the sturdy benches. Camera lenses scattered the floor like drops of mercury. Harriet rose unsteadily and peered around. Zara had fainted. The great clock had been knocked off its armature, though it seemed miraculously intact, and even as she watched, it ticked down to the last minute. Time's up, contestants, Garrett croaked, holding a napkin to his bleeding nose. Wasn't much of a joke, Harriet thought, but they all laughed anyway. Sirens spiraled in, fading and returning like the swooping flight of the local swallows, even though it was quite a long, straight road out to their meadow. Harriet wondered whether some aspect of reality had gotten permanently mucked up here, whether math had simply thrown up its hands and given up. After a day like today, she wouldn't blame it. Everyone wandered around with bin liners, sweeping up debris and digging into the supply pantry for elastofilament to build travoy. They gently carried dozens of grounded cameras outside and piled them in the grass, forming a heap of dazed-looking eyes. The crew doled out plasters from the first aid kit, called home, or were quietly sick into the flower garden out by the mill pond. Someone's failed experiment from week 1. A bright blue semi-sapient slime mold came over to sniff at the rubbish. Garrett chased it off with a broom. At last, the host and judges retreated under the judging platform to mutter, pass around an unmarked flask. Harriet circled back to her own machine, and her benchmate held out a bag, then chuckled. Go on then. What? He tapped the top of her build, which was impossibly still running. You're supposed to go first anyway. Harriet smiled, though it seemed to take the last of her strength. Why not? She scrolled down the scratch touchscreen and pressed Run Final Program. Half joking, they looked expectantly at the platform. 5 seconds ticked past, 10, 20, 30. Oh well, Harriet said. I should have known it was a... And her light turned green. 1 photon, signed, sealed, and delivered. To say nothing, Harriet thought, mouth open, of the universe, but she didn't get points for that. Garrett stared. Zara clutched her necklace. A few people sat down, hard, on the floor. Abiatha staggered to her feet, staring at the light, the table, back at the light, at the stunned Harriet, dirty and scratched and frizzy-haired and glowing. Well, Abiatha said, and took a gulp from the flask. Well, bloody brilliant. Harriet smiled. Whether the series went on or not, whether this episode even counted or not, at least 1 prize had been given out today. Cheering and whistling, everyone abandoned the ragged tent and sat outside on the grass, soaking up the last of the evening light. Thanks, everybody.
Wow, that was great. Oh man, what a night. 2 wonderful readings. Thank you for coming back, Premee. We hope you come back again. Gwendolyn, it's great to have you. You're welcome back anytime. And thanks to all of you for coming by again and sharing some time with us. 2 wonderful authors this evening. Wow, what a night. All right. Next week will also be outstanding. We've got Lauren Rhodes and KT Wagner. Promises to be a great program. Again, I want to thank the authors. I want to thank my fabulous co-host. And I want to thank all of you folks for coming back every week. So between now and next week, take care of yourselves, take care of each other. Be well, be safe, and have fun every day. And we'll see you next time. Good night, everybody.
Good night.
All right, thanks, everyone.